We've all met them, the ones who seem to make the same mistakes, over and over again. The ones who, no matter how many times life hands them the same lesson, never seem to learn. Maybe you've even wondered, why are they like this? Is it something that can be fixed? But what if I told you it's not about intelligence? It's not about how smart you are or how much you know. It's about your mindset. The way you approach life. Today, we're going to talk about 6 signs of a stupid person, not in the traditional sense of IQ or education, but in the deeper, more profound way that Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus warned us about. These signs point to a mindset that, if left unchecked, can ruin your happiness, your relationships, and your potential. And believe it or not, you might be doing some of these things right now without even realizing it. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, we'll be breaking down these signs and how you can avoid them thanks to the ancient wisdom of Stoicism. The first sign: the lack of self-reflection. Let's begin with the first sign, a complete lack of self-reflection. It's easy to fall into the trap of never asking yourself, why did that happen? Or what could I have done differently? It's much easier to just go through life on autopilot, reacting to events without ever taking a step back to analyze your actions. But this, according to the Stoics, is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Self-reflection isn't just about looking back at your day or your week. It's about understanding why things happened the way they did. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, wrote in his personal journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, obstacles are not just things to overcome, they are opportunities to learn about yourself. Without reflection, you miss these opportunities. Ask yourself, when was the last time you took a moment to pause and think critically about a recent decision or event in your life? How often do you take the time to look inward? The second sign, blaming others. One of the clearest signs of a stupid person is the constant need to blame others for everything. No matter what happens, it is always someone else's fault: your boss, your partner, the universe itself. People who blame others for their problems often find themselves trapped in a cycle of frustration, helplessness, and confusion, unable to move forward or change their circumstances. This externalization of blame is not just a passive response to life's challenges but an active avoidance of responsibility. It is an easy way to shirk the discomfort of accountability while maintaining the illusion that one is not at fault for their misfortunes. But this tendency to point fingers and lay blame can be incredibly damaging. It not only prevents growth but also undermines one's ability to take control of their life. When you constantly shift the blame to others or external forces, you relinquish the power to change. You become a victim of the world rather than an active participant in shaping your own destiny. While it might seem like a temporary relief to blame your problems on others, in the long term, it leaves you stuck in a perpetual cycle of victimhood, helplessness, and frustration. By blaming others, you absolve yourself of responsibility, and in doing so, you also give up the ability to take positive action. When you blame your boss for your poor performance, you don't take the necessary steps to improve your skills or work habits. When you blame your partner for your unhappiness, you fail to examine your role in the relationship and make the necessary changes. When you blame the universe or fate for your failures, you ignore the opportunity for self-reflection and growth that lies in taking ownership of your actions and decisions. Blame is a powerful but destructive force. It reinforces the idea that things are happening to you, rather than because of you. It places the locus of control entirely outside of yourself, leaving you with a sense of powerlessness and dependency on others or on circumstances. The more you blame others, the less control you have over your own life. And, perhaps most importantly, you deprive yourself of the opportunity to grow and evolve. The wisdom of the Stoics. To understand the destructive power of blame and the benefits of taking responsibility, we can look to the ancient wisdom of the Stoic philosophers, particularly Epictetus, one of the foremost Stoic thinkers. Epictetus, like many Stoics, emphasized the idea that while we cannot control external circumstances, we can control our reactions to them. This concept is one of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy and is foundational to understanding how we can free ourselves from the trap of blame. Epictetus famously stated, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This simple but profound idea carries with it a tremendous amount of power. The Stoics believed that it is not the events of our lives that cause our suffering, but our perceptions and judgments of those events. If we constantly blame the world around us, we forfeit our ability to control how we respond, and in doing so, we allow external forces to dictate our lives. Imagine a scenario where you lose your job. A typical response might be to blame the economy, the company, or your boss. But from a Stoic perspective, this type of external blaming is futile. Sure, your job loss may have been caused by circumstances beyond your control, but how you respond to this event is entirely up to you. You can choose to wallow in frustration and resentment, blaming others for your misfortune. Or you can choose to view the situation as an opportunity for growth, for reinvention, and for taking proactive steps toward a new career path. The Stoics would argue that your suffering comes not from the event itself, but from your reaction to it. By blaming others, you perpetuate your suffering and allow external circumstances to control your emotional state. The Stoics did not advocate for passivity or indifference. They believed in taking responsible and deliberate action, but they emphasized that this action should come from a place of internal control, not from a reactionary response to the external world. If you choose to take ownership of your responses and actions, you can find peace and freedom, no matter what external challenges you face. The cost of blame. Blaming others is easy. It's almost like an instinctive reaction. When things go wrong, it's natural to search for someone or something to blame. It can be comforting to point to external factors and say, "It's not my fault. I couldn't help it." However, while this might provide temporary relief from the discomfort of personal responsibility, it comes at a cost. The cost is the loss of your power to change your circumstances. When you point the finger at others, you give them control over your emotional state. You let your boss dictate your mood, your partner control your happiness, or the government determine your future. In essence, you hand over the keys to your life and allow other people and situations to steer your ship. The more you blame, the less you own your decisions, and the more you relinquish your ability to create positive change in your life. At its core, blame is a form of self-sabotage. It shields you from the uncomfortable but essential process of self-reflection. Instead of taking the time to examine your own actions and decisions, blaming others offers a quick escape. But the problem with this approach is that it keeps you stuck in a cycle of helplessness and stagnation. If you never take responsibility, you never get the chance to learn from your mistakes, adjust your behavior, or grow as a person. You are essentially blocking your own progress by refusing to take ownership of your part in the situation. Furthermore, blame erodes relationships. Whether it's with a partner, friend, coworker, or boss, constantly blaming others fosters resentment and mistrust. People do not want to feel like they are constantly being blamed for your problems. It creates an environment of defensiveness and hostility, rather than cooperation and mutual understanding. If you blame others for your struggles, you not only undermine your own growth but also damage your connections with others, preventing meaningful collaboration and support. The power of ownership. On the other hand, taking ownership of your life is the key to unlocking true freedom and empowerment. When you stop blaming others, you begin to reclaim control over your own narrative. Instead of feeling like a passive observer of your life, you take active responsibility for your thoughts, emotions, and actions. By doing so, you regain the power to shape your future. This shift in mindset is transformative. When you take responsibility, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as the creator of your own reality. You begin to understand that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond. You can choose to act with integrity, make thoughtful decisions, and take consistent steps toward your goals. You no longer wait for circumstances to change before you take action. Instead, you change your attitude and behavior, and in doing so, you change your life. Taking ownership of your actions also brings clarity and self-awareness. When you stop blaming others, you are forced to confront your own role in your circumstances. This is an uncomfortable but crucial process for personal growth. It encourages you to ask yourself tough questions. What could I have done differently? How did I contribute to this situation? What can I learn from this experience? These questions empower you to reflect on your mistakes, learn from them, and make better choices in the future. Furthermore, taking ownership helps to foster a sense of self-respect. When you take responsibility for your life, you demonstrate to yourself that you are capable of handling challenges and making meaningful changes. You prove to yourself that you are in control of your destiny. This builds self-confidence and resilience, enabling you to face adversity with a sense of purpose and strength. The freedom of letting go. As you begin to take full ownership of your life, you may find that the need to blame others starts to fade away. The more you focus on your own actions and responses, the less you feel the need to point fingers. This shift in perspective is liberating. You no longer carry the burden of anger, resentment, or frustration that comes with blaming others. Instead, you experience a sense of freedom, knowing that your life is in your hands. This freedom doesn't mean that life will always be easy or that you will never face difficulties. It simply means that you no longer feel powerless in the face of those challenges. You know that no matter what happens, you have the strength and ability to respond in a way that serves your best interests. You can adapt, learn, and grow from every situation, and in doing so, you take the reins of your life and steer it in the direction you want to go. The third sign: seeking approval from others. Another sign of a stupid person is the constant craving for external approval. In today's world, it's easy to get swept up in the tide of validation. From social media likes to the opinions of others, the need for external affirmation can quickly become an addiction. However, the Stoics warn that seeking approval from others is a dangerous path because it means you are handing over your happiness to others. When your joy depends on the approval of others, you are no longer in control of your own life. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When we depend on others to validate our worth, we create unnecessary suffering when that validation doesn't come. If we can learn to validate ourselves to recognize our own worth without needing the approval of others, we free ourselves from this cycle of dependence. True freedom comes when you trust in your own value and character, regardless of what others think or say. The next time you catch yourself seeking validation, remind yourself that your worth is not tied to the opinions of others. It's rooted in your actions, your integrity, and your ability to live in alignment with your own values. Don't let anyone or anything strip that sense of self-worth from you. By focusing on your inner compass instead of external validation, you can lead a more fulfilled and authentic life. The fourth sign: fear of failure. The fourth sign of a stupid person is a crippling fear of failure. It is perhaps one of the most pervasive barriers in the lives of many, often shaping decisions, actions, and attitudes. Fear, in its many forms, holds people back, keeping them confined to their comfort zones and stifling their potential. It prevents individuals from taking risks, trying new things, or stepping into unknown territories. Fear of failure stops growth in its tracks. However, in the wisdom of Stoic philosophy, failure is not something to be feared, it is an essential and inevitable part of life. For the Stoics, failure is neither shameful nor fatal, it is a stepping stone on the journey toward self-improvement and success. The fear of failure, if allowed to take root, becomes a powerful force that dictates choices and actions. It fuels procrastination, indecision, and avoidance. It creates a mental and emotional block that prevents individuals from pursuing their passions, trying new things, or challenging themselves to become better. It turns dreams into distant, unreachable goals. But as much as fear of failure can seem overwhelming, it is a natural human response that, if properly understood and managed, can be transformed into a source of growth. One of the most significant reasons people fear failure is the stigma associated with it. Failure is often viewed as something negative or undesirable, something to be avoided at all costs. Yet, if we step back and reflect, failure is an unavoidable aspect of life. It is an integral part of the process of learning, growing, and evolving. Whether in personal endeavors, career pursuits, or relationships, no one succeeds without facing challenges and setbacks along the way. This is where the Stoic approach to failure offers a powerful alternative perspective. Instead of seeing failure as an obstacle or a defeat, the Stoics saw it as an opportunity for growth, self-reflection, and learning. The Stoic perspective on failure. The Stoics believed that failure, hardship, and adversity were not to be feared or avoided, but embraced. They understood that life would inevitably present obstacles and challenges, but instead of letting these obstacles deter them, they recognized them as opportunities to build character and strengthen resilience. For the Stoic philosophers, failure was not an enemy to be defeated but a teacher that provided valuable lessons. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who ruled Rome during the 2nd century, is one of the most prominent figures to embody this Stoic mindset. Despite facing numerous challenges, wars, political intrigue, personal loss, and health problems, Marcus Aurelius maintained an unwavering commitment to the principles of Stoic philosophy. He famously said, "The obstacle is the way," suggesting that the very challenges we face can, if approached with the right mindset, become the pathway to success and personal growth. For Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic philosophers, obstacles were not roadblocks, they were the means by which one could grow stronger, wiser, and more virtuous. Failure, in this context, is seen as an obstacle that offers the opportunity to develop greater fortitude, wisdom, and perseverance. Instead of fearing failure, the Stoics would encourage us to view it as a necessary and invaluable part of the journey toward success. Failure does not define us unless we allow it to. Rather, it is the way we respond to failure that shapes our future success. By embracing failure, learning from it, and continuing to press forward, we cultivate resilience and mastery over our emotions. Fear of failure as a barrier to growth. The fear of failure, when left unchecked, becomes a self-imposed prison that limits our potential. Fear creates a mental block that makes it difficult to take risks or pursue new ventures. It paralyzes action and fosters a sense of helplessness. People who are afraid of failure may avoid taking the first step toward a new goal or project, or they may give up prematurely when faced with challenges. Fear of failure makes us believe that the possibility of falling short is too great a risk to take, and thus we shrink away from opportunities for growth and self-improvement. The danger of this mindset is that it keeps us stuck in a state of stagnation. We may continue to live life safely, never venturing outside the boundaries of our comfort zone, and as a result, we miss out on the rewards of pursuing our passions and striving for personal excellence. The fear of failure creates a false dichotomy, the belief that success is the only acceptable outcome and that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. This mentality prevents us from realizing that failure is not the end of the road but a crucial part of the journey. Learning to embrace failure. To overcome the fear of failure, we must change our relationship with failure itself. Rather than seeing failure as something to be ashamed of, we must learn to view it as a necessary part of the learning process. Each failure offers valuable lessons that can guide us toward future success. The key is to embrace failure as a teacher rather than an enemy. The Stoics provide valuable insight into how to reframe failure. According to Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, it is not that we are given a life that is too short, but that we waste much of it. This waste often comes from our fear of taking risks and failing. We procrastinate, we hesitate, we put things off because we are afraid of making mistakes. But if we approach failure with the Stoic mindset that it is neither good nor bad, but simply a part of life, we free ourselves from this cycle of avoidance. When we fail, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I improve moving forward? By adopting this mindset, we transform failure from something to fear into something to learn from. We stop measuring our worth by our successes and failures, and instead, we measure our growth by how we respond to challenges. Each setback becomes an opportunity to refine our skills, develop our character, and grow stronger. Overcoming fear through action. One of the most powerful antidotes to fear is action. The more we take action, even in the face of uncertainty or potential failure, the more we desensitize ourselves to the fear that holds us back. The Stoics believe that we should act with purpose and intention, regardless of the outcomes. By focusing on the process rather than the result, we can liberate ourselves from the tyranny of fear. Taking small steps toward our goals can help break the cycle of fear and self-doubt. Each small victory, each attempt, each lesson learned from failure strengthens our ability to face future challenges with courage and resilience. The Stoic idea of focusing on what is within our control becomes especially relevant here. We cannot control the outcome of every endeavor, but we can control our actions, attitudes, and responses. By focusing on doing our best, regardless of the outcome, we free ourselves from the fear of failure. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of accepting the possibility of failure. Instead of avoiding it, we should make peace with the idea that failure is not the worst possible outcome. In fact, failure is often an essential part of the process of achieving success. This acceptance allows us to move forward without the weight of fear holding us back. The fear of failure is a powerful force, but it is one that can be overcome with the right mindset and approach. Instead of viewing failure as something to be avoided, we must learn to embrace it as a necessary and valuable part of our journey toward growth and self-improvement. The Stoics teach us that failure is not our enemy but our greatest teacher. It offers us the opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to grow stronger. By reframing our relationship with failure, we can free ourselves from the fear that keeps us stuck in inaction and self-doubt. When we embrace failure, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities for growth. To live without the fear of failure is to live with the courage to take risks, make mistakes, and ultimately succeed. By facing our fears head-on and learning from our failures, we unlock the power to create the life we desire. The fifth sign, living for the future, never the present. The fifth sign of a stupid person is the habit of constantly living for the future without ever fully embracing the present. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of ambition, constantly thinking about the next career move, the next paycheck, the next vacation, or the next milestone in life. In our fast-paced, goal-oriented world, the future often becomes the focal point of our attention. However, in the process of relentlessly chasing what's coming next, we often forget to appreciate and live in the present moment. The Stoics, whose philosophy was centered on living virtuously and in accordance with nature, recognized the profound importance of the present moment. They believed that true happiness and peace come not from obsessing over the future but from focusing on what is within our control right now. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wisely said, "The whole future lies in uncertainty, live immediately." In other words, the future is always uncertain and unpredictable, and it is futile to place our hopes and happiness solely on what might or might not come. In a world where people often live for the future, postponing their joy and fulfillment for a later date, the Stoics urge us to embrace the present. The present moment is the only time that is real and tangible, and it is in the present that we have the power to shape our lives. Focusing on the present does not mean neglecting the future, but rather understanding that true fulfillment comes from appreciating the here and now, rather than constantly chasing a future that may never arrive. The danger of living for the future. Living for the future can be both a motivating force and a source of frustration. It pushes us to set goals, work toward our ambitions, and strive for improvement. However, when we become too fixated on the future, we risk neglecting the present moment and losing sight of the richness of life as it is. The pursuit of future rewards can become all-consuming, leading to stress, anxiety, and a sense of emptiness. The danger of living for the future is that it can create a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. We may achieve one goal, only to immediately set our sights on the next. We put off enjoying life until we reach a particular milestone, thinking that we will be happy or fulfilled once we have achieved this or that. But the future is always shifting, and once we reach one goal, another replaces it. This constant chase can lead to burnout and disillusionment, as we realize that happiness was never truly in the future, it was in the present all along. The Stoic approach to the present. The Stoics emphasize that the present moment is all we truly have. The future is uncertain, and the past is already gone. As Epictetus famously said, "Don't wait for the perfect moment to take action." There is no perfect moment. The idea is that we should not put off living for a distant, idealized future that may never come. Instead, we should focus on what we can control in the present moment. This doesn't mean abandoning plans or goals. The Stoics were far from advocating for passivity or neglecting the future. Rather, they encourage us to live fully in the present while keeping the future in perspective. By focusing on what we can do right now, rather than obsessing over what might happen, we can experience true fulfillment. The power of being present. When we are present, we are fully engaged with life as it unfolds. We are not distracted by worries about what might happen or by regrets about what has already passed. Instead, we experience the richness of the moment and are more attuned to the opportunities and beauty around us. Being present allows us to appreciate what we have, take joy in the simple things, and live with intention. The Stoics believed that by embracing the present, we can cultivate a sense of peace and contentment. We stop waiting for some distant future to bring us happiness and instead find satisfaction in the life we are living right now. This mindset can transform how we experience life and help us avoid the trap of constantly chasing a future that may never live up to our expectations. Lastly, reacting, not responding. The final sign of a stupid person is the tendency to react impulsively to life's events, without taking the time to pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. In our fast-paced world, it's all too easy to let our emotions take the wheel, especially when we are confronted with stress, frustration, anger, or disappointment. Whether it's the irritation of sitting in traffic, the sting of a rude comment, or the challenge of dealing with a difficult situation, it's common to react quickly without considering the consequences. In these moments, our automatic responses are often driven by emotion, and more often than not, these reactions lead to regret, misunderstandings, and further complications. However, the Stoics taught us an invaluable lesson: rather than reacting impulsively, we should strive to respond thoughtfully and deliberately. The distinction between reacting and responding may seem subtle, but it has profound implications for our mental and emotional well-being. To react is to allow external events to dictate our internal state and actions. It's an automatic, knee-jerk response, often fueled by heightened emotions like anger or fear. Responding, on the other hand, involves taking a step back, evaluating the situation, and choosing a course of action that aligns with our values and long-term goals.